Advocate, also Standing Counsel Union of India, Sri Mrutyunjay Hallikeri sir also joining with us today. Welcome,
Well,
Mrutyunjay sir.
hello,
So
Mrityunjay.
we are
Thank
live.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you,
we are
and
live.
very good
Okay.
evening to all.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. Yes, we are live now. Shall I begin with everyone's permission?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good evening, postgraduates and the mentors, and welcome to this 86th episode of All India Postgraduate Teaching Program, which is an initiative from ARC AIOS. As we always claim that this PG program is with a difference. Last month, we had something different. We wanted our new PGs who were coming into the course, joining the course to understand how to select a topic for thesis. Now, the next thing which the postgraduates should be versed with is about the soft skills. Soft skills are usually missed out during our undergraduate courses. Neither in the postgraduate courses are they a part of curriculum. And this is that is what it is said, that it is empathy, the communication which breaks the ice and which also goes the reverse way. And then it can lead to, some spoiled relations between a patient and this. And with this very theme, we decided that this particular month we would be dedicating it to making our postgraduates aware of the soft skills. I'm really thankful to our ARC member from South, Dr. Srinivas Joshi, who has worked hard to create these 4 episodes on soft skills. And of course, we are being mentored by Dr. Kirti Singh, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for guiding ARC with this particular program for these 4 episodes. We are indebted to you. So now, without much ado, can I request today's coordinator, Dr. Srinivas, to further carry forward the program?
Sure. A warm welcome to each and everyone. I think somewhere noise is coming.
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, no. One second. Yeah. Request to speakers to mute for a few minutes. Yeah. So once again, warm welcome to each and every one of you. So why this program? I think we had a very long discussion with our DME madam here today is Dr. Sujata Rathod, Director of Medical Education. She also heads the Minto earlier. And we have our able IPS officer, Sri Vikas Kumar Vikas sir. I'll be giving his introduction a little later. And so to seek the police intervention, because nowadays, most of the things. So let me give you a brief gist of what is happening. I also would like to welcome all our expert panel, Dr. Lalit Verma sir, Dr. Kuresh Maskati sir, Dr. Kirti Singh madam, and Dr. Reggie Thomas sir, who also has a very strong law background, apart from being a fantastic phaco surgeon. So we have a galaxy of speakers here today. But why do we need to have this webinar? Kuresh sir was asking me, what is the need for this webinar, Srinivas? Kuresh sir, 63% of doctors fear of violence, according to the data which I have received. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Most of the doctors in India fear violence, particularly from the patients and their families in high stress situations. 82% of the perpetrators are family members or relatives, and 62% of the doctors are unable to see patient without fear of violence. And many doctors in India are fearful of violence while treating the patients. And 57% of the doctors have considered of hiring a high level security staff to avoid these kind of violence which is happening against the doctors. So here we have this beautiful webinar planned up is how to protect and how we can try to come down by the communication errors, because the Joint Commission of United States has stated that 60% of this could have been avoided if there was a proper communication between the patients and the doctors. So how we can improve on that patient-doctor relationship, how we can improve the cooperation between the patients and the doctors so that we do not have to face such situations in future. So with this, I think we have our first speaker here today, Dr. Sujata Rathod, madam. Dr. Sujata Rathod, madam, I think she needs no introduction because most of us have already seen her in most of the ophthalmic platforms. And she was earlier heading the Minto Regional Institute of Ophthalmology in Bangalore. But definitely, I would like to give a brief about Sujata, madam. She is presently the Director of Medical Education of Government of Karnataka, situated in Bangalore. And the list, her list, it goes on and on. Just to give a gist of it, she has 34 years of teaching experience, 9 years of administrative experience, 19 years, sorry, 10 administrative positions, 25 honors and accolades, 60 motivational talks on women empowerment, health education, 50 conferences attended nationally and internationally, and 6 life membership in most of the professional bodies. So I think she was also honored with the Savitribai Phule Award, Mahatma Gandhi Sadbhavan International Award honored by the Governor of Karnataka, and BC Roy Award by the Indian Medical Association Karnataka chapter. And the award list itself is going on to 10 pages. But for the shortage of time, madam, thank you very much for joining us today. So today, madam will be speaking on how we can protect ourselves from doctor's point of view. So what we decided, me and Dr. Kaushik Murli and Dr. Kirti Singh, what we decided was first how we can save ourselves or how we can prevent such situations being happening in the first place. If things go beyond it, then I request our honorable good friend, senior colleague of ours, who has rose from the rank of SP and now becoming additional commissioner of police in Bangalore. So he'll be helping us about how to seek the police assistance. And then when things go beyond the police, then how will the judiciary come to our help is how we have Mr. Mrutyunjay Hallikeri sir. He is a senior advocate of High Court and also the standing counsel for the Union of India. So with this, we open our first talk with Sujata Rathod, madam. We have 15 minutes of your talk time and then we go forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I'll put the screen share. Yeah, yes, once upon a time, we all were addressed as Vaidyo Narayana. We were all treated as gods. And somewhere down the line, I think this rapport and trust in this doctor-patient relationship has taken a beating. So as Dr. Joshi was saying, and this entire group is there to identify where we have had a real miss and how can we stop this, because violence against doctors has completely become it's appearing like a viral epidemic. And we have noticed that, as Joshi was saying, there are more than 70% of our doctor fraternity who feel unsafe while treating a patient. And global statistics show that 88 to 38% of health workers in their career time suffer physical violence. And IMA has made a statistical workup and shows that 75% of our doctors have faced some sort of violence at work. And I would personally go to the extent of saying that, yes, Minto, being a tertiary center, had an episode of endophthalmitis in the year of July 2019. And as the director, I had to take the vicarious responsibility of what happened in the hospital, though it was the culprit was a Klebsiella pneumonia organism which was found in our oculos, which was, as you know, in the government setup, we go by the KTTP Act and take the lowest bidder. But it was only one batch of drug which caused these reactions in a set of about 22 patients. And really hell broke on all the doctors at Minto. And me being the director, I was out of the country. But by the time I came back, the minute I reached the airport, the press were all there. And it was a huge, what do I say? We needed to be strong as a team to identify that it was never a doctor's problem and it was because of a pharmaceutical contaminant. And the complete process of trying to face the internal inquiry, the external inquiry, and I should say that the KMC is still having its own court of law. It's taking its own time to come to a conclusion. But as the director, I had to move heaven and hell to make our politicians understand that it is not the doctor's problem. It has happened due to a fault of a particular drug and in its sterility. And I had to face so much of mental harassment. My students went on a real depression, or they went into a mode where they said, we want to quit this profession. It was a terrible heart bleeding experience. And at that point of time, we try to identify and come to know that there are laws which are there. So first thing was, we were not even aware that these laws exist, because it's been, even the statistics show that though so many cases are registered under the existing laws, only 23 went on to trial. And when we went as a group to the DCP, then the first thing she said is, you have to accept it. It's become a professional risk, and you have to accept that this sort of violence is going to be the future in the doctor's profession also. And what I found was that it is just some this activist groups or the sensationalized language related groups which come up and misuse the situation. So unless the doctor profession are very strong in our knowledge and make them realize that where we have, if we have done a, if there's a mistake, and the, at every point of time we have seen that there's no negligence, but there are complications associated with every particular procedure, and this is just a mishap which has happened. It is not a blotching up of surgery. This is the word they first use, that we use, saying we have blotched surgeries going on. That is a complete misnomer they use. And these are the things which first we have to make, we have to become aware that we have to fight as a group. And I can very well say that the entire ophthalm fraternity, the KOS, BOS, and all my fellow ophthalmologists come and they came to our support, and they made the entire fraternity realize that it was a mishap which could happen anywhere and any place. And so this was just the first thing what I wanted to say, is that at that point of time when my students were assaulted in the outpatient on November 1st, which was the Rajyotsava day, because this was the Rakshana Vedike group which came and first pulled down our PG saying speak in Kannada, and then went on to try and talk irrelevant things, saying that you all are not sensitive enough to identify, and went on posting a lot of in social media saying we have severed so many people's life. Well, that was a personal experience. So at that point of time, I realized that we definitely need to work as a team first. We have to make people aware that what is wrong in our profession, or where we have really looked into the complications and not blotched and done anything out of negligence. So that was the most important thing that I learned from that incident. And I think our youngsters were needed a lot of support emotionally, to say that this things can happen, but you have to move on in life, because today's patient doctor relationship, they want 6/6 or the vision. They're not just happy with 6/6, they want even further improvement than that, supervision they want. So when expectations are so high, and they no more look at doctors as just the trust is lost in a great huge way. I think we first need to understand what could be the triggering factors in patients, especially with regard to their dissatisfaction, their need of emotional support, where they perceive everything as a negligence. And in our system, of course, we have so many other things. Long waiting period is one more thing which we should realize. The long queues in our hospital setup, especially the government setup, which can trigger off these sort of violence. And of course, the influence of media portrayals of healthcare, saying that we all are here to only make a fast buck and improve our lives. So if it's not your hard work which is shown, it's just that you make money out of your profession, which is shown in a very bad way by our media. And identifying whether there is a substance abuse amongst our bystanders, and immediately trying to identify other factors, whether the doctor, the patient, or their attenders are prone for creating more violence in the way they talk, in the way they have eye contact with us. These are the things we should identify and see how we can stop this anything going into a mass violence. Well, we have, as I just went through the things, it's the younger doctors who face more physical violence, and female doctors more so. And the one more type of violence which we all of us, I think, have faced many times is a verbal violence. And in emergency department, this is found to be the most common type of verbal violence. And well, we need to look at where we lack and what can be done on this. So as I have looked through our various medical colleges and the institutions, I've realized that the inadequate security, never used to think that we need security. We, the healers, also need protection now. That it has become the stage now. And so definitely the inadequate security is what we have to look into and improve our security system. And of course, in our system of work, if there are inadequate human resources which cause long waiting hours, patient overload, multiple attendance for single patient, and if you try to not communicate to them in the rightful way, all this can lead to the type of violence or the way they handle us. So, and insufficient legal enforcement under the Central Protection Act. That is one more thing that which is very, very, I mean, lack of these acts which are in place, and again enforcement of these acts, I think that is again very important in the system. These are a few things which we need to identify with our patients, whether the patient is continuously staring, because it's been found that nurses feel that staring would help and it would make them get intimidated so that they give a prompter action. And tone of the patient, the tone and the which way they talk to you, you can identify that this can probably go in and become a bigger problem, or a violence can erupt, because most instances we have seen raised voices and yelling, and also sarcastic and casual replies. That's what I meant by verbal violence, which we need to identify. Next. And we know that the patients who come are extremely anxious about their loved ones. So unless we communicate in the right way and intervene before this anxiety reaches dangerous levels, we would be not doing right if we don't identify this and help them out by our communication skills. So it's been found that mumbling about being under the influence of any substance abuse, or continuously they are unhappy about things, the patient tries to keep mumbling and talking too many things, because that is also being perceived as a sign of frustration and a cue for violence. Pacing, of course, in the emergency rooms, we can see the attenders who are literally pacing around to help their loved ones get the rightful treatment. So, of course, we are protected by the laws which have been implemented, especially in Karnataka, because we don't have a central act, because health is looked upon as a state subject, and the central act has been stalled and it has not come into effect. But later on in 2024, after all of us know about the Calcutta incident, the Karnataka government, in its first of its kind, went and modified this particular act, and now we have with the aim to ensure respectful practice of medicine. And the goal is to deter attacks and improving reporting and compliance. So in this particular act, the amendment spoke on various sections. The section 3A talks on prohibition of intentional insult, and the stronger penalties were identified and enacted. That is, what was earlier 3 years has gone on to 7 years, and fine of 25,000 has gone on to become about 2 lakh for violence against healthcare professionals. And displaying this particular act in all our emergency areas or in our hospitals is extremely important, so that patients realize that they can be treated, or they can get enacted under this act. So the various sections look into what are the other things that can be looked into, and the section 5A tells that all these cases should be investigated by a police inspector within 60 days, as short as that, and trials to be completed within 1 year, extendable by 6 months if needed. So just about 18 months is the maximum time by which these investigations should be closed. And cases can be tried by the chief judicial magistrate. And newer things also, not just look about only doctors, but it includes the ambulance drivers, the guards, the managerial staff, and helpers in the healthcare institutions. And again, it talks about our security systems to be improved. So this section 8 talks about government should be empowered to enforce CCTV installation, security personnel deployment, where we need able-bodied personnel and retired army people, and these people can be deployed. alarm systems, and control rooms with toll-free numbers. All these can be installed, and these are the things which will make us more confident of our workplace. Adding on, the legal landscape for protecting this has further undergone notable changes in what is with the introduction of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and the Bharatiya Nyaya Suraksha Sanhita system, which have replaced the older frameworks such as the IPC code and code of criminal procedure. And these updated legal codes help us a more structured and comprehensive approach to addressing violence against our healthcare workers. And Karnataka is one of the states which has put this into action. And as I mentioned earlier, the proposed central law is not in any progressive stage. It's been stalled in its thing. So the challenges in getting these laws into actual implementation is that we need to create more awareness amongst our police and that personnel. And health being a state subject, we need our health ministers or the state government to look into it to bring more better implementation of this acts. And amongst the government setup, amongst everywhere, we definitely need to have our own stronger security systems, improved communication system, which is definitely needed, because the lack of communication in between our youngsters and our patients seem to be the bigger problem, and the lack of empathy amongst our youngsters, because as we have seen, the new ATCOM system and modules which are introduced by the NMC stresses on this, on the attitude, the ethics, and the communication skills. So these are the things which we have to improve, and these are the challenges in our way to look at towards the violence towards our doctors. But yes, public education on all these acts and what can happen to them if they raise their hands on the doctors should be highlighted well in all the places. And beyond laws, of course, as I said, NMC has looked into the newer ATCOM module, which talks about clear and empathetic communication. We need to be extremely active to de-escalate this potentially tense situation. We have to be extremely cautious and understand the situation, be mindful of non-verbal cues, informed consent, proper documentation. And yes, to all our youngsters, to all our personnel, now we are talking on self-defense training and work as a group, especially during evening and night. Here, I may talk on a little gender-sensitive violence as well. And de-escalation techniques is we should be knowing when we need to step away and not try to act all bold in order to so
please mute yourself. One of the videos is.
So to
go ahead, buddy.
To just continue, yes, I think Karnataka government and the Department of Medical Education, we have now brought out a advisory, especially gender-based violence, saying no to violence. It's a code violet advisory which is brought on to look a little more into the gender-based violence, where we have said that the adequate security personnel with face recognition, CCTV cameras, toll-free numbers, apps which are designated and designed to identify with the rapidest way of handling any such situations. So we need to have this self-defense training, mock drills, and the heads of the hospital should be extremely supportive in filling up the formal complaints and follow-up, and ensure that we have a police outpost in most of our hospitals. And now we ensure that the police beats are there round the clock to ensure the violence. And so I think as a doctor, duty is to heal. We should not fear our profession. We need to say that violence must end and allow us to do our job, that is to heal our patients in the most rightful way. So in order to do that, we need to ensure our safety. And so let's safeguard our healers. Let's protect our doctors today to ensure a healthier tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you for having me to share my thoughts on this particular topic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. I think that was very in a short 15 minutes. You could cover most of the things. If you can stop the screen share for a second,
Yeah, thank you.
we can have the panel discussion. Yes, we will open up with Lalit sir. Your point of views on what madam spoke about. What are the various laws?
Yeah,
Yes, there are laws.
you see,
The central government stalled it. It didn't go to Rajya Sabha.
unfortunately, I think additional CP's the mic is working.
Sir,
Because your
yes, sir, your
you
background
have to
somewhere
mute
it
it.
is coming,
No,
sir.
no, no, absolutely nothing.
Okay, okay.
Acha.
Yeah.
So in any case, you see, in this era of Google, Baba, and so much social media, doctor is not God, as Madam said, and he is labeled today as a service provider, and patient is a consumer, and hence all this Consumer Protection Acts
1 minute,
there.
sir. Lalit sir, 1 minute. Sunil ji, can you check where is the disturbance coming in the system? We can't hear it. Sunil ji? Sunil?
Yes, sir, I'm just trying to figure that only. So just allow
वो
me.
देखो
Now
यार
it is
सुनाई
better.
नहीं दे
Are we
हाँ
better yet?
हाँ ठीक है सर
Can we make all mute?
Yeah.
Lalit?
Can we all mute and that is better, sir. Sunil ji, please mute everyone so that when required, we'll unmute and talk.
No, what I was saying was that in era of this Google Baba and so much information plus this social media, which plays this spoil sport, doctor obviously is not God. Doctor is a service provider and patient is a consumer. And central government, all these big politicians are not with us at all, and they have dragged doctor to the court of law, and hence doctor has to be very defensive. Things which we could fearlessly operate today, we are afraid because patient pakad na le kahin pe. So that remains. But the single most important factor out of Sujata's talk was one, that if this lack of trust or doctor patient relationship goes for a six, primarily I would label doctor also as a faulty this thing, is the lack of communication. That if we communicate with the people, explain to him everything, then these problems, are much less. If we are in a hurry to operate or if we are in a hurry to deliver, and then the problems mount. Because patient expectation is today not 6 as Sujata was saying. Patient expectation is much beyond that. He wants to play golf today immediately after retinal detachment surgery, and this is what patient expectation is. But believe me, whatever Sujata said, all points are very good. But what I would say that, you see, God has given us 2 years. We should listen to the patient. She said we should listen to the patient. What complaint he has come with and what does he want from us. If we don't, then all these problems start mounting. All these CCTV cameras and all these things are from the defense point of view. But if you spend time with the patient, all these things can be minimized.
Thank you, sir. We'll have one comment from Kure sir and then we'll have our Vikas Kumar sir's talk.
Okay, Srinivas, I think this broadly you have to split into two parts. One is the public system and one is the private sector, because the violence is different and the approach should be different. In the private sector, yes, communication skills are very important. You must keep the patient with you. After all, the patient is paying fees. He has high expectations. In the public system, when there are 200 patients in the OPD and there are 3 junior housemen handling this situation is different. There is no time for communication. The poor RMO, the resident medical officer, doesn't have the time to explain the nuances of the disease as we have in private. So there, a very strong security system is important, and I love what Sujata has come out with, those self-defense to be taught to the RMOs, the cues that you must pick up, the mumbling of patients, the pacing, where you can immediately perhaps press a button somewhere to get more security rushing in. These are the things which will come into play in the public sector. So we must divide this into two different, because the violence is different. the many places in private hospitals, the violence is only because they don't want to pay the fees of the doctor. There is an unexpected result. They don't want to pay the fees. They try and do violence to see if they can get away with it. So that's different. While in a public sector, as you said, 22 people have lost their eye. The political elements come in and color the whole battle. So we should discuss this in two separate modes, Srinivas.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I know Kirti Singh madam is nodding her head when it came to the government sector, and she definitely wants to have her words. But before that, madam, I think we'll go with the talk from our guest speaker today, Mr. Vikas Kumar Vikas sir. I'll just introduce you all. Dr. Vikas Kumar Vikas sir, I think, is a 2400 batch IPS officer, and he has served various positions with over 2 decades of experience. He has served as high profiles, including the Superintendent of Police, Deputy Commissioner, Deputy Inspector General, and Inspector General now. A graduate in Geography from the University of Delhi and postgraduate from the prestigious Delhi School of Economics. Vikas sir qualified for the National Eligibility Test and earned a Junior Research Fellowship from the University Grants Commission, positioning him as a qualified lecturer in geography as well. He has notably commanded anti-Naxal operations and anti-terror operations, playing a crucial role in safeguarding the state against the extremism and the terrorism. Served as the Executive Director of Police Housing Corporation, and he has held many other roles, including in social welfare, youth empowerment departments, and Managing Director at Mysore Sales International Limited, and earning a prestigious awarding, including the Golden Peacock Award and SKOCH Award. So, sir currently serves as Additional Commissioner of Police for Law and Order in Bangalore City. His achievements have been recognized in various parts of the country, and fortunately, he has. We are all proud that he has also received the Global Indian of the Year award, and he's really the pride of India. Sir, so now you are the Deputy Commissioner for Law and Order. So now you please tell us what happens if the law and order goes out of the hand. Now Sujata madam has so beautifully described about how doctors can protect themselves, but we would like to know the police intervention, the police help, how we can seek the police help if things go beyond what is expected. Open to you, sir. Kindly unmute yourself, sir, please.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Srinivas, for nice words. And I want to congratulate Madam first for very exhaustive explanation of the facts, including what I wanted to see, ma'am. The law part I wanted to cover. You made my work much easier. That you covered already. See, the law is actually very stringent. The issue is that it should be implemented correctly, and it will start from the first communication that is received from the hospital. So the whole question lies in how effectively things are communicated from the hospital. The first part would be, of course, I think the first line of defense starts from within the hospital. This is our assessment of the whole thing that we have seen across in the last so many years. Somehow, as the service demands, police and doctors, most of the time we have seen, we generally become very good friends because of the commonalities of our work in our work domains. So what we have realized in the discussion amongst us is that the faster the communication, easier the whole situation can be controlled. Number one. Number two, the first line of defense always starts from within the hospital. If we have got good, setup system within the hospital, like Madam also brought out that point of having a good security system. Now, security system has physical security, then your CCTV security, then, covering the walls properly, making people aware that there are certain laws by which you are supposed to behave in a particular way. Now, if these things are visible, the fence sitters will never take a chance. This is the human behavior is like this. If people are made to focus on certain things, the number on which we have to, actually focus reduces by a great deal. Simple behavior, of a person when he's seen and he's watched, and in a mob, same person in a mob behaves completely differently. So that one thing we need to make it very, very clear to them that you're being seen, you're being watched. We are with you. We are communicating with you. The communication plays a very, very important role in making them that we stand, we are here only for you. We'll see to it that everything will be taken care well. But at the same time, there is a way of handling the things from our way, our side as well, and from your end as well. So that being the one part, coming to the point that you asked very pointedly, the role of police, if situation actually goes wrong even after this, fastest mode of communication is the best way. In fact, in Karnataka, there is a SOP, standard operating procedure, with respect to this particular issue, which was issued in 2009 itself, and which is followed scrupulously throughout. The directions are such that the communication between medical institutions and the police is non-compromisable. It is, and as a part of that, what is made compulsory is to have a direct communication and direct linkage with every single hospital, and identifying also which are the more, little vulnerable ones, depending on history, depending on the number of patients being seen. And of course, government hospitals, which has got a very large capacity, and at times we also feel they are not in a position to actually handle that number. Many a time we have seen that, in fact, the number leads to the issue of. So, from our end, what we are doing is that every police station, our unit is the police station. Every police station maintains a direct one-to-one link with the hospital. Now, how does this get maintained? We have got small beats. In whichever beat areas this police station, falls into, the beat staff maintains the linkages with the PROs and the hospital staff concerned. Similarly, PROs are advised here to have direct linkages also with the SHO of the area. This can actually make the situation work fastest. Sometimes, if that does not work, in case of any, mobile communication issue and all that, the number 112 has been made, throughout the country. Now, this has been made a common number now. 100 has been replaced by 112. In fact, the fastest mode of communication in terms of police reaching the place is now 112. We claim of, reaching any place within 10 to 15 minutes of any call made to the police. In city environment, of course, and it can be, few minutes more in the district setup, where we have some forested area also, some inaccessible areas also. So, faster the communication made to the police, it will solve the problem at the earliest. So, I'm sure the hospital administration needs to, train and equip them with this kind of information, and ensure that they maintain one-to-one relation with the local police station. As far as Bangalore city is concerned, we encourage officers from our end also to reach out to all the hospitals, which is a good practice. Otherwise also in day-to-day activity also it really helps. Not just any kind of violence erupting and then we reacting. Otherwise also as a normal routine parlance, we try to ensure that this relation is maintained well, so that communication is a matter of routine. So any specific question with respect to is there, then I'll be able to cover it. And I also want to bring one point that this act is actually very stringent. I also suggest that if any such activity happens, FIR must be done. There should not be any compromise with that. Any kind of violence, leading to any kind of disruption and leading to losses. In fact, the law entails that recovery shall be done into 2 of whatever losses that has happened. if the person is not able to make payment by any means and they fail to do so, the concerned act forces as per the Land Revenue Act, the recovery can be done. So that's quite stringent. I mean, it means that by all means it will be done. It shall be done.
Vikas sir, thank you very much. I think in some parts, I have seen that certain deputy commissioner of police, they have done a local wise area as the doctors with police karke. They have made a personal WhatsApp group. It was very active. So the problem what is happening is some proactive police officers, yes, they will ask their juniors to do this and things move on. But it is not replicable same in most parts of the country. That is one point for sure. Because I was also a part of that group and the group was very active. All the SHOs of that area were very much, they were instructed to act upon if any point of there because the WhatsApp was used as a channel. But unfortunately, sir, I have seen various instances. You say that you have to have your SHO as a good friend and that he should be, your first point of contact. But once he receives the smallest telephonic call from any politician, then everything comes down, sir. This is what is the truth scenario. I'm sorry, I'm not naming anyone here, but a smallest call, it unfortunately it comes down. So how do we have to act in such cases?
Srinivas, if I may, you see, if we know police is with us, half the problem is solved. You see, if we know police is with us, but believe me, police is hesitant to file an FIR. They do not want to file. वो कहते हैं, रफा दफा कर दो. They do not want to file an FIR. And the other thing is, you said the fastest the communication, the better it is. By that time, already harm has been done. Harm already has been done in the form of violence by patient or relatives or this thing. The other thing is that the beat constable or the patient should today be afraid, which he is not. If patient is afraid, in case he does this, he will be, punished behind the bars, hanged, whatever. Because patient today is not afraid at all. That is my thing. Patient has already done the harm. Beat constable, till the time he lodges the complaint, it is already too late. And believe me, I personally faced police does not file an FIR.
Vikas sir?
Yeah, madam has to say something. She wants to say something. I think we'll listen to
Yeah.
madam.
Yeah.
This again did happen in one of our hospitals, but there was mistake on both the side. As I was saying, our youngsters, one lack communication, and second part, they don't touch their patients. So this was observed by the police around there, and they went on to take a judgment amongst their within themselves that these doctors deserve to be treated like this because they did not touch the patient. So this sort of judgment also will come by the bystanders and the police personnel. So that definitely influences their judgment whether they want to help the doctors or no. But then as institutional heads, we had to tell them that no, this cannot be the way we can control the violence. So you please do just your duty and identify that if we need to do a FIR, please do it, and then we'll take it. We will try and correct our doctors later, but we do not want mass violence to happen, and not our doctors should be physically assaulted. This has happened. I can vouch for the actual thing.
Dr. Reggie,
Kirti madam and then Reggie sir.
okay.
Yeah.
So
because-
wonderful discussion going on. My throat is a little bad. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
Kirti madam.
So I am working in Maulana Azad Medical College, sir, and I was in Lady Harding and GTB Hospital, three hospitals of Delhi. I can quote instances, sir, how violence is curbed. Being ophthalmologist, we do not have that much violence as gynecologists and pediatricians have, because their lives are dying. And I have personally, in front of my eyes, seeing a lady doctor be disrobed by the patient ki aapne meri biwi ko dekha nahi. And everybody had to stand still in LNJP. What Dr. Lalit was saying is very right. Institutional FIR may be the norm, but everybody hesitates कि कौन चक्कर काटेगा, and the patient would be बिचारा हमेशा क्योंकि वो तो sick है, and the doctor would be this. Having said that, sir, most of our doctors, at least ophthalmologists, are females. So what Dr. Sujata said is very right. They have safe touch. Proxemics is an important study. They should be together at night duties. Safeguard yourself. I can give a true example of GTB में violence नहीं होता इतना. LNJP में every week होता है. Reason being GTB में hockey sticks पड़ी होती है emergency room में. आप जाके देखिए. Moment anything happens, before the police is called, the people just call 4-5 doctors from the hostels. वो लड़के आ जाते हैं and they just stand with the police sticks. That is just enough to deter the people from creating mass violence. इलाज सब हो जाता है. I agree with Sujata ma'am that our doctors lack empathy, but that does not mean कि does justify violence. Second, why is everything the doctor's duty? Why are nurses, paramedics, and the other ancillary staff just let go? If you remember the Khurcha, Dr. Lalit may remember, sir, the end of the incidents in Muradabad in Khurcha in 1980. I was an intern, I think 86, and the doctor was lambasted and FIRs were made. Problem saline की थी, Dr. LP Agarwal identified saline. Why was no action taken against the pharmaceuticals? It never is. End of होता है जैसे मैम ने बोला. डॉक्टर गलत है, डॉक्टर गलत है. कैसे गलत है? सोल्यूशन कहीं पर. So this is where Dr. Srinivas and Dr. Prashant and Dr. Lalit, you have to step in. If AIOS has a statement that it is a combined responsibility, because most of the violence is after surgery. It's very rarely in OPDs. Surgery के बाद क्योंकि PCR हुआ, rent हुआ, कुछ भी हुआ. If it is that it's a combined responsibility, end off is an event, and this should be like we have these walks, we should have these talks. कि भी हर चीज डॉक्टर की गलती नहीं होती है, मत पीटो उनको. किसी ने जान के नहीं आपके क्लेप्सिला डाला आंख में. The solution was bad. Why are those companies? So I talked to I had discussed this many times, and I was told because the companies support the politicians, they give the vote banks and they give the money. The doctors don't. So that's the senior side of life. But we as doctors have to protect ourselves first by whichever means. Lady Harding Medical College, my husband works there. Kalavati Saran में बच्चों की कोई ना कोई death होती रहती है. They come at a very late stage, and then somebody will come and beat up the doctor girls. What they did was they just hired bouncers. Security was big, tall, hefty हरियाणा के लड़के थे. उस 6 महीने में किसी ने नहीं पीटा किसी को.
Yes,
Just the
institutions.
physical presence of the bouncers. So at higher, protect your doctors. Tell them it's not the doctor's fault each time. Of course, teach the youngsters to have empathy. But above all, once you have a violence against doctor, he or she will never go back to that profession. Thank you.
Neji sir, and then we'll come back to Vikas Kumar sir, please.
So Vikas sir, I'm a little of a critical type of a person, and so I have some questions and some recommendations to you, because this is all what I have actually seen. Very often, even in the Minto case where Dr. Sujata was talking about, the police tends to file an FIR, which actually is against the law. The Supreme Court has laid very clear guidelines that the police cannot file an FIR against a doctor unless there is a medical proof, means it is means documented by a team of doctors or the KMC to prove beyond doubt that there is medical negligence. But I have seen it, I work for St. John's Medical College Hospital. I have seen it there. I've seen it in the episode at Minto where an FIR is registered. Then, personally, I have given copies of what was issued by the Directorate of Police to state that this is not allowed. The Supreme Court says it's not allowed. And it was only later that the FIR was withheld. Imagine the trauma the doctor goes through, because once the FIR is registered, it becomes far beyond what a doctor who has worked with passion, commitment, and with an intent to save or do good is suddenly told that he's going to be behind bars. And I've had, in that particular episode, young girls ring me up with small kids at home, scaring to be arrested and behind bars. And the police do not seem to have, many police stations and police do not seem to have this basic knowledge that they're not empowered to file an FIR. The second thing, even if you look at that particular case, it was not the relatives, but it was political groups. who are looking at political mileage, who are looking at, vested income from these situations. And the police do not seem to be active enough or powerful enough to cow them down and hit them down. But they will say, wait, we will see, let's see. There's no immediate action. What is your response to this situation and this awareness across, not just in Karnataka, but the whole country possibly?
No. You are absolutely right on that count. I mean, lack of knowledge cannot be justified. If somebody does not have a knowledge of the law of the land, I mean, absolutely, that needs to be questioned, number one. Number two, as you said, FIR need not be filed. Absolutely, very well documented. Until unless there is a report by the committee, that board of doctor which is set up for this purpose to identify the liability, till that point, FIR cannot be filed against the doctor.
But
That
what
is
action do you take, sir, against the police who has done this?
these three first point is that generally it will not happen. If it has happened, disciplinary actions are taken for lack of knowledge and for whatever misdemeanor they have done, action is taken. And those things are not brought out. But generally, this will not happen. If it has happened, it is wrong. It's absolutely undeniable. Dr. Srinivas also brought out few things that it should not be officer based. Yes, it should not be officer based. When there are rules and regulations, laws in place, why it has to be personal whims and fancy? It cannot be. Doctors need protection. Government of the concerned state government, it is a state law everywhere. Concerned state government has decided. Even Ministry of Government of India has brought out certain guidelines. It needs to be followed, means it needs to be followed. Everybody has a liability towards it, be it police, be it the medical domain, including doctors, including hospitals. Everybody has a role to play. Anybody who errs has to be questioned. I agree. What has gone wrong? Absolutely, that needs to be agreed upon.
Sir, another very striking point which Dr. Reji mentioned is about the awareness of these things. When a lot of your seminars or webinars or wherever, like right from your the training which happens in Telangana or wherever the updatements about what is happening, is there any way where it can be included about the awareness? Because not everybody actually knows it. That is a very fact, sir. I'm not telling all of them do not know it, but some of them do not know it, and if they do it, then he asked a very pertinent question: what action will be taken? Of course, not much of action, because just ऊपर senior से call आ जाएगा, क्यों ऐसा किया भाई, ऐसा नहीं करना था. Of course, you are also bound with some responsibilities, roles. But how we can increase this awareness amongst the police, sir?
Yeah, awareness, it is a must. And as far as this particular issue, I think awareness within the cities is definitely is there. Now, as far as in the hinterland, in the districts and all that, awareness needs to be created as much as possible, because ultimately there is a law which exists, which is in place. It needs to be implemented. So if implementation has to be proper, then everybody has to know, including those who has to implement the law. So
Can you as a Commissioner of Police send a letter to all your subordinates by FIR against doctors has not to be filed unless a committee report comes? Can you repeatedly hammer with subke so that it gets ingrained in the minds of junior officers also? That is important.
In Bangalore city per se, this is being hammered on a regular basis. In fact, we have got weekly review with respect to these cases also. Amongst those what we review, this is also one of the topics. So it is repeatedly being put in the mind, what is right, what is not right, what can be done, what cannot be done. I think that particular issue of somebody from the political domain having forced a case was registered. Such cases are absolutely rare, and it needs to be, we need to take action, we will take. At the same time, it needs to be brought out in the open domain also. Because these are also opportunities for everybody to, know what has exactly been done, completely wronged, which has been completely wronged. If these kind of things are made open to the domain, put in the open domain, more number of people know immediately.
Has any police officer been suspended or this thing for filing a wrong FIR? Because doctors have been, put behind the bars, jailed, terminated, threatened, so many things. But suppose a police officer has, or a subordinate, or a beat constable, somebody has filed an FIR without the committee report. Has something been done against him?
If somebody does without a committee report, exact figure we'll have to find out and tell you. Definitely there will be a disciplinary action against them because they can't do. It's so
Okay.
clear.
That is good enough, I think.
One just query, one just statement. Awareness of the doctor also is important. We keep putting the ball in the police courts. How many of our students or ourselves are aware हमारी rights क्या है, legal or liabilities क्या है? So we had in DGO, sir, if anybody wants to see, we had done with the help of a lawyer, 2017, maybe we had two issues to legal liabilities and rights of a doctor. Because if you are aware कि आपके against FIR हो सकती है malpractice के लिए और आपको क्या करना है, अगर पुलिस वाला आता है तो क्या करना है, so that should be also there because protect yourself first and be aware. पुलिस सर नहीं करेगी, हमें अपने आप करना होगा, and media is a big tool in this. We could use the media and then of course the police is there as a support.
मीडिया तो खेती नहीं होगा. मीडिया जो ऑलवेज सिंपलाइज
सर
विद
नहीं सर, अगर
Always.
पुलिस साथ में है, पुलिस डॉक्टर्स कंबाइन करके मीडिया में दें तो डॉक्टर्स के
media wants sensational.
no
Media
doctor
wants.
media wants also a crusade. Make them a crusader कि ये आप crusade कर रहे हो. They
Shall I
want a
think,
crusade.
Srinivas, let's move on because we
Yeah,
want to hear.
I think the debate,
Yeah.
the debate will keep happening amongst us, and I think Vikas Kumar sir is busy, so he will have to intervene amongst us only because of the too much of debate happening against this. This is such a hot topic. I think we need to come out with more and more episodes on this. Vikas sir, I was just telling, with the debates happening amongst ourselves, then it probably it might require a police intervention as well. So
No, it's a wonderful debate, and everything which needed to be brought out has been brought out in the rightful way, and everybody has taken in the right positive way also. So there are shortcomings. There is no denial.
Yeah.
Fact.
Every
If we
system
deny,
has.
we cannot go forward. There are shortcomings, and discussions and acceptance can take it forward. So whatever that has been, sometimes this interface brings out your thing to me and my thing to you. Yes,
As long as we keep improving, it's okay.
Absolutely fine.
Yes, only one point I wanted to make is our own personal judgment about a doctor should not again man their way of helping, because this happens amongst the police personnel as well. Because during that episode of endophthalmitis, it was a lady DCP who said that this is a risk you have to accept being doctor. And when we told her that FIR can't be done without this, she said it's a right of every person who comes to the police station. If he wants to complain, I have to take it. Then we can decide whether it is to be considered or no, but I have to take a FIR. This was told by a lady DCP. And because she had I just want to share that during her childbirth, she was in a private setup and she was heavily billed. She had this thing against doctors saying you all are just out there to make money.
Absolutely wrong. I think
Sadly, that's what I said. A personal judgment should not
personal
come
judgment
from
is kept to just her own internal thinking,
Yes.
not to be put in the open domain, because that's absolutely wrong. I think I don't know.
That is the reason. That is the reason. Because I said, if you punish one police wala because of his wrong FIR or whatever Sujata was saying or what Kirti was saying, that is a big deterrent. That's a big deterrent. Then nobody will file nothing. Chal, I think
Because sir, one IAS officer was punished for falsification of medical. The whole system got this thing. I was part of it. 10 people were sent for verification. They all had falsified. So yeah, so one, if you just do one, things
One
would
year.
change. Things would
Correct.
change.
Yes, true. Very true.
Let's move on.
Thank you, Vikas Kumar, Vikas sir. I know you had a very
Thank
heated
you,
questions
thank you.
from most one of us. That is because we have to bring out something towards the people who try to help us in the society. So that's why was that kind of direct kind of dialogues. I hope it will be taken on a positive note and
But
more and more awareness will be
Absolutely,
spread out.
But
absolutely.
very nice. I think very nice.
Thank you. See, positivity is the key to, your next step forward. So, and it was a lot of learning for me also, because sometimes, despite being how much open you can be, many things you will not accept. Acceptance can come when you keep hearing the same thing for some time, then you'll realize, yes, there is something more to it. Yes.
Thank you.
It was wonderful meeting you all and talking to you all.
Thank you,
Of
sir.
course, these things will be carried forward for good of everybody. And we need doctors with a lot of confidence. We can't see doctors lacking confidence and attending to it. That is absolutely not warranted.
Thank you, sir.
And I
Thank you
think
so much for your
Sujata
kind
ma'am's
words.
word
Thank
of
you.
Thank you so
non-verbal
much.
behavior of the doctor is very important.
Absolutely.
Apps will help, even in an institution or in a private setup. Both.
Okay, so we'll move on to the last topic of today. Is none other than Advocate Mrutyunjay Hallikeri, sir. He has done his Master of Laws LLM specialization in corporate laws and government from National Academy of Legal Studies and Research, University of Law, Hyderabad. Presently, he is practicing as a practitioner at the High Court of Karnataka, and he has handled various matters, including he is serving as the Central Government Standing Counsel, representing Election Commission of India, representing Airport Authority of India, and is representing Karnataka Power Corporation Limited, representing Reliance Life Sciences Private Limited, Mumbai, and representing Hindustan Pencils Limited, Mumbai. I think again his thing goes and more is a part of the Singhania and Partners with Bangalore and Securities Appellate Tribunal, Government of India, Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs and Mumbai, J. Sagar Associates, Mumbai, and the various other things he has worked. I think he has a very vast experience on this. Sir, Mrutyunjay sir,
Yes.
first question before you start your talk. Sir,
First, let
more
me
than
say very good
200
evening to all.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please, Mr. Srinivas.
More than 200 cases have been registered, but not even a single conviction in any of these matters which comes to the violence against the doctors. Though Andhra Pradesh was the first to start it, if I'm not wrong, in 2007, and then the rest of the states started doing it. The union government says it is the headache of the state government or the union territories to look into these. It's not our job. In 2019, it was stalled and it didn't go to Rajya Sabha, so the uniform law was not passed. The state government, although they are having it, still it is not being implemented fully. If implemented, we should have seen some results at least. So with this, just a few background, I would request you to please go ahead with your talk, sir, and then we'll have a brief discussion on this. Please welcome Advocate Mrutyunjay Hallikeri, sir. Please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. It was, I think, Madam Sujata and Vikas sir has covered most of it. But what I can add is that what is been discussed until now is about the prevention, how to prevent it. Now, what I am going to speak is what happens after the failure of the prevention. Once it could not be stopped, once it goes out of hand and it happens, then what will happen? I'll just share my slides with you. I have just made this one. So okay, you can see that?
Yes, sir. Slideshow mode would be.
Okay, just give me a minute.
Yes,
sir?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The topic that I am dealing with is the judicial intervention. In most of the cases, the judicial intervention comes only after something happens. Okay. And thereafter only that it is taken to the courts. Now, when it is taken to the courts, how the courts have reacted to the situations is what is most important thing. How the courts have come to rescue of the medical professionals. See, the violence which what we discussed is, in my view, there are two kinds of violences that we see. Dr. Joshi, I'll come to that point later, which you raised with respect to delay in the judicial proceedings and delay in the trials. I'll come to that a bit later.
Sure.
Yeah, before that, how the courts have treated, what I could see from various decisions of the courts and how the courts have dealt it is that the violence are treated by the courts in most of cases. What I can see is it's of a two kinds of violences that we see in the workplaces. One is that it is against a person. It need not be as a professional, but as a person. For example, let us say that a women doctor is there. What is her safeguards? How she is going to manage there? What happens if on her person some attack is made? Not that as a professional, some attack is made. What happens some person on her person if some attack is made? And for the doctors also, the male doctors also, most of the time they are meted with the verbal threats, etc. And sometimes what happens, it may be a professional, it may not be a professional. So the violence is, one is on the person and on second is in the professional capacity. Insofar as these kind of violences, so for what we are seeing in increased way of violences in these days are especially against the women in the hospital where their safety is concerned and other things. Now you saw the what happened in West Bengal, you saw what happened in Rajasthan, and you also saw recently what happened in Kerala. And in most of those cases, as I have mentioned here, Article 226 and Article 32 of the Constitution. See, these are the basic the articles which empowers the courts to intervene in the matter and see that everything is going right and there is no meddling of anybody in the investigation. Because in the discussion, I just happened to see that Dr. Joshi also mentioned and Vikas sir also mentioned that phone calls makes a lot of differences. In many of the cases, phone calls makes difference. So in order to avoid such of the things, that one can definitely approach the courts under Article 226 and 32, which we call as a writ petitions. There, the courts will take cognizance of these matters, and the courts have looked at it very seriously. And best example is the West Bengal case, where the Supreme Court, the three-judge bench itself monitored everything, and it saw that the investigation was held properly. So that is in respect to what happens in case of a if a doctor as a person is meted with an untoward incident, which is a violence. Now the second one is how the courts have treated professional violence against a professional. For example, that while doctor operating on something, while doctor treating on something, while prescribing some medication, at several point of time, concerning their medical work, some violence takes place. Suppose a emotional relative of a patient comes and asks something, and then there will be a verbal exchanges, or that suddenly the patient collapses. So the professional negligence in most of the case, what we see, how the courts have treated this professional negligence. Because of that, the violence takes place is undisputed thing. But what is violence? How the courts have treated it? Whether everything becomes violence, the courts have treated it entirely different. So in these two kinds of fashions, the courts have treated the violence. And the what the law says about it, sir has covered, madam has covered, but as per my view, the IPC and now the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, they all cover with respect to the attack on the person. There are several IPC sections are there, etc. Those are there. And now the yes, those sections are there, which treat like any other ordinary person. The doctor will also be treated, and the law will be same applicable, which is applicable to an ordinary person. So in that respect, the law protects the doctors also as an ordinary citizen. Now, insofar as the professional things that I made a note of, there are several enactments that have come into force. About 23 states have brought the laws to prevent these kinds of attacks, violences against the professionals, attacks and violation against the property. And most of these laws have made these offenses as a cognizable offense. if I may have to just brief you on that, a cognizable offense is where the police officer does not need the permission from the court to arrest somebody, where on the spot he can arrest the culprit and he can put him behind the bars. And the next aspect is, in most of these laws, it is made as a non-bailable offense where the intervention of the court comes. So the courts are very stringent in granting the bails because these are made as a non-bailable offenses. And the next aspect is with respect to the punishment. That I will come, because we have not seen much of the punishment in these kinds of cases. And when the punishment also happens, the recovery will also be ordered. And in the so far as the approach of the judiciary with respect to these aspects are concerned, now the Supreme Court has taken the violence against the doctors very seriously. Now the Supreme Court has issued in Arjikar violence case, the Supreme Court has issued certain guidelines, such as that a very swift registration of FIR has to be made without loss of time. Because if there is a delay in the registration of FIR, delay in the investigation because of the phone calls, so-called phone calls, then everything will be derailed. So the Supreme Court has given a direction to the chief secretaries and also the super DGs of the every state, that to see that whenever any violence takes place against any of the medical officers or the medical staff, that there must be an FIR with no loss of time. The second thing what the Supreme Court has done is, now as the madam also said and Dr. Joshi also said, that the central enactment is not taking in a speed pace, and the state enactments, they do not provide the state enactment. What I have observed in a larger way is, these enactments only speak of the prevention and they speak of the punishments only. But most of the enactments, of course, the Karnataka has brought an amendment with respect to some of the changes. But in most of them, what I see is there is no facilitative provision in these statutes, such as how the hospital has to be built, how the hospital first has to provide security to its own staff. So these kind of things are not governed by any legislation as of now, because maybe lack of the legislative. That's why in Arjikar case, the Supreme Court has constituted a national task force. This job of this national task force is to hold a meeting with all the stakeholders. That is with respect to safety of the doctors, well-being of the doctors. It not only includes the doctors, it also includes the medical students and the other medical caregiving staffs. So the national task force is a kind of a temporary task force which is constituted by the Supreme Court to look into all these things. And you can also submit your representations to them and by putting your suggestions, etc. And the third thing what the Supreme Court has said is that institutionalize the distress call system. Dr. Vikas also spoke about it at length, that how speed you can reach a police and how speed police can reach you. So with respect to that, the Supreme Court has directed all the states to look into this matter seriously. And another aspect is with respect to duty hours, etc. of the staff, etc. And in case if the violence takes place, in case if the damage happens, there should be a fund that should be created. The Supreme Court has gone into that aspect also. And sometimes what happens that we have to show our strength in some way. So protest is the best way. But doctors can't go on a protest. That is another matter. But Supreme Court has said that you can go on a protest in a peaceful manners. And as I have mentioned, that states and police are also directed to keep in place the minimum requirements of safeguards, etc. And as many of you already spoke, with respect to registration of FIR against the doctors, the Supreme Court in Jacob Matthew case, it's a very landmark case where the doctor was prosecuted and an FIR was registered against a doctor. Then the Supreme Court went in detail with respect to that. See what the Supreme Court says, that it might take some time. Okay, pardon me for that, but to just instill a confidence in the doctors, that how the courts have treated the doctors, I'll read one paragraph. Okay, the Supreme Court says indiscriminate prosecution of medical professionals for criminal negligence is counterproductive, and does no service or good to the society. A medical practitioner faced with an emergency ordinarily tries his best to redeem the patient out of his suffering. He does not gain anything by acting with negligence or by omitting to do an act. Obviously, therefore, it will be for the complainant to clearly make out a case of negligence before a medical practitioner is charged with criminality. A surgeon with shaky hands, under fear of legal action, cannot perform a successful operation, and a quivering physician cannot administer the end dose of medicine to his patient. If the hands be trembling with the dangling fear of facing a criminal prosecution in the event of failure for whatever reason, whether attributable or to himself or not, neither can a surgeon successfully wield his life-saving scalpel to perform an essential surgery. So the Supreme Court has very categorically said that the doctors cannot be put under a fear. At any condition, the doctor should not be put under any fear. For that reason, the Supreme Court says if anybody goes and makes a complaint, in Jacob Matthew, the Supreme Court has laid down this guideline, and as per the Constitution, Article 141, what Supreme Court lays down a guideline is a law that has to be followed. So, but these guidelines, what I'm seeing is missing in the legislation. As a body, you can represent to the legislators and bring in these changes. Anyway, what the Supreme Court says is complaint cannot be registered against a medical profession unless it is accompanied by the expert opinion of the similarly qualified doctors, especially the expert committee, what we say. And the second thing, even if there is an FIR, the arrest cannot be made of a doctor. A doctor cannot be arrested because a police officer is not an expert to go into the question of medical negligence. The police officer cannot say whether there is a negligence or not. The police officer cannot go into the intricacies of the medical things. That is why the police officer on his own cannot make arrest of a medical professional. If at all he feels that there is a need, then first he must take a opinion from the experts, and then only he can arrest them. As one of the speaker was saying that some of the lady doctors rushed to their house under a fear that they would be arrested. What the Supreme Court says is the doctor should have no fear. And what I personally suggest is that this Jacob Matthew versus State of Punjab, this judgment should be circulated everywhere, and every doctor should read it so that it will instill some confidence in them. Okay. And if a police officer comes and says that they will arrest them, then definitely a doctor with the confidence can say that he is not empowered to arrest them and they should not be under a fear. And then the Supreme Court says the doctor can be taken into custody only in rarest of the rare case. Unless such a rarest case is made out, and that too it is been made out by another expert team of doctors, number one. Number two, the custodial interrogation is required. And normally in medical the negligence cases, etc., custodial interrogation is not required because it is all the expertise thing. It is not like a robbery that how a thief came and he he broke the window and he went inside. That is not at all required in these kind of cases. So the doctor should never have a fear of custody in those cases. The Supreme Court has protected him in those cases. Now, what happens if the police makes such a venture? Maybe personal judgment, what we saw, personal judgment, lack of knowledge, etc. How the courts can help such of the doctors? You see, in the criminal provision code, now the Nyaya Samhita, there is a provision called section 482. This 482 empowers the High Court to cancel any of the FIR which is registered falsely, which is registered as an arm twisting method. Sometimes what the instances show is the patient's relatives also feel that as an arm twisting method for various factors against the hospital and the doctors, they threaten them to file a criminal cases. And in some cases, they also file a criminal cases. Then the best of the remedy that is available to any of the doctor is that they can file a petition to the High Court immediately and they can take a stay of that. Then there is no question of custody, bail, anything, etc. The court grants an interim protection immediately. And especially in view of these judgments of the Supreme Court, approach of the judiciary towards the doctors is very lenient. unless and until it is rarest case it is proved, the courts will not interfere. Otherwise, in 99% of the cases, what I have seen under Section 482, the High Courts will interfere. So the one of the awareness that I would bring is that the judiciary will definitely interfere where a false FIR is registered under the wrong pretext of medical negligence. As I've stated, false cases are registered to arm twist, and you can also file a petition under Article 32, 226, Article 482, etc. But yet again, I will say the court will come to an help only when there are adequate laws. Now, what I find is that there is an inadequacy in the laws also, where you can also file Article 32 petition or Article 226 petition to the High Courts, and you can seek a directions. You must all be knowing that sexual harassment at a working place, there is a judgment by the Supreme Court in Vikasa versus State of Rajasthan, where the Supreme Court, because of the lack of the legislation, has laid down a detailed guideline that how things, it has laid down the procedure, how things has to go about the safety of the women, how working conditions, etc. But what I find is, in case of doctors, it is not done so. In many, of course, Karnataka has brought some amendment. Many of the states have not brought such amendments. So what you can do is, you can approach the court to lay down such guidelines. Then probably the Supreme Court will interfere or the High Courts will interfere and do it. And the punishments are not so effective, and there is a lack of effective implementation also. And then in my concluding remarks, now I will come to the Dr. Joshi's question that why there is a delay in the trials. See, what I suggest is that the legislation must treat the doctors and the medical caregivers as a special class. Like what we see in case of the dowry deaths, what we see in case of the sexual assault on the woman, such as rape, what we see in cases of a rape on a minor girl under the POCSO Act. See, they are all treated as a special class, and special enactments are brought for the speedy trial of those cases. Now, by virtue of the amendment in Karnataka, now the trial, 1 year trial is fixed. But in many of 23 states are there. In many of the states, such amendments are still not brought. And as you have already noted, Union of India is not ready to come out with a law which prescribes the time period for the disposal of the cases also. Since there is no time period prescribed for the disposal of these cases go on the regular basis where we don't see. So that is why one has to approach the courts under Article 226 or 32 and ask them to treat the doctor medical fraternity as a separate class and lay down the procedure for the disposal of the cases also. One another example I will give. Now the MLAs and MPs are treated as a special class. For your information, the all legislators are treated as a special classes. Any case that is pending against an MLA or MP has to be disposed of within 6 months. Has to be, or at least it will take 1.5 years, and those cases will be disposed of. You saw many of the politician cases, the judgments coming out so quickly. Why that is happening is they are treated as a special class. Special courts are made for them. Special judges are sitting for them to dispose of those cases. But because of the lack of the legislation, because of the lack of the interest of the legislators, these kind of provisions are not available in law. That is why the courts are going bit slow. So that's why in my concluding remark, I say that the community of the medical fraternity has to be treated as a special class. Once they are treated as a special class, all these kind of laws can also be brought in, or if they don't do it, the courts will lay down the guidelines. And in most of the cases, the courts have leaned in favor of the medical staff. So with that conclusion, I will wind up my speak. Thank you, Mr. Joshi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And thank you all audience.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I think you can stop the screen share, sir. Mrutyunjay, sir. I think he was very straight to the point, and he has brought out various issues here. The one thing I just want to say, sir, in one of the articles published, it says that doctors are 4 times more likely to experience workplace violence compared to the other professions. So this is the generalized statement what I can make from all the articles which I could review on this. Yes, sir, Mrityunjay sir.
Now, just one more thing I just forgot to mention. As the audience were also asking that if one person is punished, the others, it will be a caution for others. See, one example that I will give, that in Mangalore, one law student was taken into custody by the police. The law student was taken into custody by the police because the police involved in some civil land case. In order to resolve that civil land case, the boy was taken into custody and he was threatened to settle the matter. The whole point is that the arrest was illegal. The arrest was illegal by the police. That boy approached the Karnataka High Court, as I said, under Section 482 CRPC petition. Then the court went into the matter. The court asked the officer to file an affidavit with respect to his knowledge of arrest also. It's very important that how could he arrest that law student without there being any cognizable offense against him. So the officer had to file an affidavit. He had to seek an apology, and then the court cancelled that entire FIR against him. It not only did that, it awarded 5 lakh rupees compensation to the student because he went into custody, he suffered, so that compensation was ordered to be paid out of the pocket of the officer. So these are the powers of the courts under these provisions. So awareness of going to the court is also very important, and these provisions has to be, these options has to be taken.
Correct.
The
Very
law
important.
students and advocates are very powerful people. So they can twist the police, they can twist the judiciary. And
when doctors comes to the lawyers, they make them also powerful.
No. If you notice, like you said, the MLAs and thing, advocates also a very special category because even the Consumer Protection Act is not powerful against them. Whereas the doctors have appealed for this multiple times, but the Supreme Court has still not granted it.
That's why it's a collective effort.
This is all theory. This is all theory. This is all theory, I'm telling you. You see, I see a lot of books behind you, but believe me, on practical, well, it's very pathetic situation. You see, very rarely doctor will go to the court because one case or one behind the bar, one FIR against a doctor means his whole career is gone. No amount of compensation by any court can, benefit him at all. So
just on a lighter side, sir, we see so many doctors on the matrimonial side in the courts. So they can definitely come to the courts for fighting for their rights. I'm just encouraging the doctors on that line that you have to be strong to come to the court and fight for your rights.
I agree. You see, I appear for a lot of protection of a lot of my fellow colleagues, but fortunately, there is a reason behind, especially I'm not talking about senior level, junior level people to extort money. Case बंद करने के इतने पैसे लग जाएंगे, आप दे दो. That's what is happening in district courts or smaller, places. We are not talking of high courts and Supreme Courts. There may be larger amount of money may be playing a role. But, see, you can't get out by saying that state is a law enforcement agency and because of lack of legislation, we are not able to do. So that is what puts me off by saying that us on the buck to the state and judiciary can get away with it.
Reggie sir, your final comments?
While we've taken pride in blaming others, the police, the law, the system, and things like that, I think 2-3 points which is important for us as medical faculty is, like Dr. Sujata said, right in the beginning, we should have a system or a part of the medical education which tells us our rights and what is our, we should know the laws. One of our biggest weaknesses is that we do not know the law. The other component is that we should have CMEs and things that are organized at all levels, okay, where we are aware of our rights. And finally, I think it's the bodies which need to change their attitude. Like who decides whether I'm right or wrong? It's not the police. It's not the judiciary. Judiciary can't. The judge can't because the Supreme Court says that it shall be referred to a medical board. Even in a consumer case, it does not say may, it says should. Therefore, our people decide whether you are right or wrong. And if our people can be strong enough to say that this doctor is not wrong, it's an accident, okay, then the doctor is not liable to penalties. So it is our fraternity which has to know not to blame us. And two, when you go for a second opinion, it's so important that we don't blame another doctor or say that the other doctor has done something wrong. We need to say he's done his best. This is what can happen to anybody, and it is repairable. Okay. So we need to be positive against our fraternity.
Absolutely. I agree. You see, I agree that our medical students are not taught all these things. And we have all this we have never been taught about all these laws. So till the time medical curriculum, gets modified in such a way that we are made aware that this and this, whatever has been discussed, I would personally think Srinivas or Prashant Bhavan should take a lead to publish some kind of things and put it on our website or ARC guideline till that time. Srinivas?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. That is the one, what Reggie sir said is the clap, tali dono haathon se bajta hai. It cannot be with one. So if something violence is happening, then we have to introspect, retrospect, look at it, why it happened, how we could have changed ourselves. It need not be that the police is wrong all the time or the judiciary is wrong. The doctors also can be wrong in some
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So that's why now I think National Medical Council has come out with the curriculum that is professionalism, which is actually my core subject, sir. I always teach our fellows and this thing because professionalism is not just good speaking. When I ask what is professionalism to one of our fellows, they say, sir, we need to talk nicely to our patients. That is the misunderstanding which our undergraduates or the postgraduates has. Let me correct it. It is accountability, altruism, excellence, humanism, sound understanding of ethics, good communication skills, and the clinical competence. These are the pillars of professionalism. Once we learn it during our undergraduate days, postgraduate days, then what the Joint Commission says, 80% of these errors, these violence would have been avoided. So next two series, we are coming up with that, sir, where we are looking into the post-end of cases, how the patients have been responded, and an unhappy celebrity patient, how he responds. And then we are coming out with how to build the brand reputation of the doctors. So sometimes one small incident happened, as you said, the whole career. It should not happen like that, sir. We should build our brand reputation, how doctors should build our brand reputation. So that the society will look into it in a different way, in a rightful way, because as Sujata madam said, there might be some miscreants who can try to do that, but that should not be taken as a blanket kind of this thing, judgment. So in that way, how to do the brand reputation, we are coming out in the next series, sir, on this soft skills boot camp. So we had 4 webinars, 2 are over, 2 are still there. I request all of you to please join it. So thank you very much. And on behalf of all my ARC colleagues and ARC chairman, I would like to thank our expert panel, Dr. Lalit sir, Dr. Reggie sir, Dr. Kuresh Maskati sir, and Dr. Kirti Singh madam. Special thanks to our excellent speakers here today, Director of Medical Education, Sujata Rathod madam. Sorry, she was very straightforward, and in fact, she spilled the beans of what she faced. That's what I was talking to her. Madam, you please come out with what, because people like the real stories. People want to know what really happened. That was one of the reasons why I wanted Sujata madam to actually speak on this, because most of the postgraduates were asking for the link. That itself is understandable. Most of them wants it. Thank you, Sujata madam, for being here. Vikas sir added a lot of points. I'm sure that he's going to discuss this internally in the coming few months with his police, and that broadened the view. And lastly, thank to Mrityunjay Hallikeri sir. He was introduced to me by Advocate Archana Joshi. Thanks to her, and also my colleague, sorry, Rishikesh Naik, for helping me out on this. Thank you, Mrityunjay sir. I
Thank you.
request you
Thank
to
you very
please come
much.
out with some of this what you have mentioned so that we can circulate it in our AIOS curriculum as well. So
Sure.
thank you very much, everyone, and good night. Thank all the audience and Sunil from the support admin team and all the viewers who have viewed this today. We'll try to make a better India in the coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye bye. Bye.